Thank you, Astrid. Our next post on the program is our keynote speaker, Yusuf Omar, who has traveled all the way from India and from his job as an editor and mobile editor and innovator in the Hindustan Times. And he's also very busy here helping the students to produce all these Snapchats and Facebook videos. So please welcome Yusuf Omar.
Guys, we are live on Facebook. Hey. Say hello to Peter. Peter is doing a Facebook Live. He's one of your students. Hey, hello, everybody. Say hello on the Facebook Live. We are live on your guys' university channel right now. Here it is. I'm going to share it on my personal profile. Come on, Peter, let's go. My name is Yusuf Omar. I am mobile editor at the Hindustan Times. First things first, let me connect this up. Peter, get comfortable. This might take a little while. Introduce yourself. Just turn the camera onto yourself and say hello. He's doing a great job, isn't he? Cool, and let's see if we can get this up. There we go, that's his Facebook Live. There's Peter. He's a good-looking fella, isn't he? And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share it on my personal profile so that my friends know that I'm live. What shall I write, guys? Norway is awesome and cold. Very cold. Cool, and I'm going to post that. And that's going to make its way there. Selfie journalism isn't journalism. Selfie journalism isn't news. I would rather die than do it, but it sure isn't journalism. Journalism is about finding things out. That was the words of a senior editor of one of the world's biggest news organizations at a conference that I was recently attending, and my reaction was something like this. I was like, say what? Because selfie journalism has defined the last 7 years of my entire life. It's taken me around the world and allowed me to have exposure to stories and show the best and worst of humanity. I believe selfie journalism is, in fact, our closest version of the truth. It's more angles, it's more perspectives, it's the democratization of media. And here I was having one of the biggest news organizations and one of the most traditional ones writing it off and shooting it down as being frivolous and nonsense and basically questioning everything that I do. So let me first start by looking at what selfie journalism or mobile journalism is, because in India, there's a bit of a misconception. In India, this is selfie journalism. It means reporters getting really cozy to politicians, and so cozy that they can take a selfie with Prime Minister Modi. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Mojo, mobile journalist. I'm a mobile journalist. He's obviously a mobile journalist. We all are mobile journalists. We all have mobile phones in our pockets, and we are all telling stories every single day. I call myself a jeans journo because everything should fit in my jean pockets. See, since 9/11, two things happened. I became regarded as a terrorist every time I got to the airport, and my shoes came off, and I got the extra security measures. And mobile phones started documenting our entire lives. It was mobile phones that were broadcasting the world's biggest stories. It wasn't broadcast cameras. There was a colossal shift at that point since the Twin Towers went down, that it's been cell phones that have been emitting all of these messages for better and for worse. For me, it is the most raw, most intimate, most personal way you can possibly tell a story. At the Hindustan Times in India, I've got 750 journalists. 750. I think you could take all the news organizations in the whole of Norway and you could maybe not even get 750 people. It's an enormous. In India, everything's massive. We've got lots of people. And it's about trying to get them all to shoot, to edit, and to tell stories using their phones, and to give us access to parts and places that we haven't been to before. My journey into mobile journalism started in 2010 with a backpack filled with old T-shirts, a head full of young dreams, and an old mobile phone. I wanted to tell the story, I wanted to try and understand Africa for myself, this big, dark continent. Everybody said it was so scary. And I said, well, how scary is it? Let me go and report stories for myself. So I started by hitchhiking from Durban to Damascus, from South Africa to Syria, up 12 countries, 12,000 kilometers for 3 months, telling stories using my mobile phone. And plug the audio in. Whoops. Let me get this out. Peter, keep the Facebook guys busy. Tell them what you had for breakfast. I had salmon for breakfast. I love the breakfasts here. And there we go. Have we got audio? Oops. And that one. This content was raw, it was shaky, the audio was terrible. It was, in a conventional sense, horrendous journalism. But nobody cared because it was intimate and it was real. And that's all people really wanted. They wanted a real story. And when I wanted the local television stations to take my stories and they were like, that's not a story. We don't want somebody hitchhiking around Africa. I didn't need them anymore. I had Facebook and YouTube, and I could find an audience on my own. It was one of the most liberating moments in my career, the acknowledgement that I no longer needed a big media house to get leverage to a powerful story if I had a powerful story to tell. The next time I got to play with selfie journalism was when I went to Congo. An ammunition depot had exploded in the middle of a civil population. Hundreds had been killed and thousands had been maimed. And this time, I strapped a camera to my head. And this was point of view. As I walked, you saw what I saw. And I was giving the camera to anybody who I saw. Film me, film me. You guys can watch that at another time. The point is, in that instance, a lot of the mainstream media weren't interested in that story. 300 people dying in the middle of Congo, it's actually not as valuable as 300 people dying in New York or in London. And they weren't willing to take the story with the attention that I thought it deserved. But again, I had access to social media platforms, a powerful story to tell, and people were interested because they felt a sense of empathy, because it wasn't like a reporter saying, oh, I'm coming to you live from Congo where an ammunition depot has exploded. It was far more personal than that. It was me holding the camera out and saying, this is horrendous. I've just met a woman who's trying to get antibiotics into her body and she hasn't even had breakfast or lunch or dinner. Like, you won't relate to the correspondent as much as you relate to somebody just talking to you in a very intimate and personal basis. This all culminated in 2014. I was desperate to become a foreign correspondent. I wanted to parachute into wars and natural disasters. And to be frank, I was too young and too dumb. I wasn't the most experienced journalist in the newsroom. But at a time when newsrooms were shrinking, where resources were becoming more and more tight, and they were sending less people on less foreign trips, and they were pulling back and becoming a little bit more insular, you had a reporter that could go out and give you photos and GIFs and memes and tweets and 360 videos. And for the first time in media, being tech savvy, being somebody who could provide a vast array of content, became more valuable than experience, where people wanted a lot of story for their buck. And I could give you a lot of story for their buck. So we went out to Syria. I was smuggled in with a group of surgeons who were trying to build a hospital in the province of Darkush in Idlib, which is now at the very center of the war. And we went in bucket boats. It was a very, very sort of haphazard, across a river, being smuggled in. And this time, we were playing with the idea that We think people migrate, that they will read your tweets here and they watch your Facebook Live there and they watch a 360. But in fact, you often only have one hit at getting somebody's attention. So the idea of taking your tweets and embedding them into your videos, taking your Facebook posts and worming them into your videos and creating singular formats where you could house all of this amazing stuff in one place. And this is called working in a war zone. Basically, a car came screaming in here, blood pouring out. There was a child, he's been shot just below the heart. At the moment, we understand it was some sort of an accident.
It was an 11-year-old accidentally shot dead by his father, who was cleaning his gun.
I'm just getting word, an update on the child that has been shot. It's coming through now. We tried to personify this hospital.
I wanted to do this my whole life, and having done it, I wouldn't want to go even 1 centimeter closer.
Hatay airport near Antakya, crossing the border into Syria on an old tractor. We've got to move. There's a lot of armed men now that have just arrived at the hospital.
The security situation is definitely deteriorating.
This is by far the most scary part of the trip thus far. We're hearing loud explosions now, not far away from where we're staying. There's definitely an eerie feeling in my stomach that things are taking a turn for the worse.
Things did, in fact, take a turn for the worse. We were evacuated the night after that little crossing in bed when mortars were firing just 100 meters away from us. The kind of coverage I was doing there was not the conventional reporting. It was being able to tell you what we're having for dinner, being able to tell you what it feels like to be in bed and hear bombs taking place outside. Two things emerged. Firstly, the idea that content that we were producing for social and for mobile was infinitely different to television in the very dynamics and the way we structured a story. And the second thing was the idea of hacking platforms. That first live crossing that you saw where I said, hi, a child has just died, we patched that through via Skype to our television station. That was before the days of Facebook Live, about looking at everyday commercial products like Skype and saying, how can we use this for journalistic purposes? How can we use this to get a message out of a place when we can't put up a satellite because we could get attacked, where we can't get a big OB van or these sorts of technologies? Constantly hacking everyday consumer products for journalistic purposes. The thing is, if I look at, this is Nihad. Nihad is a guy who I stayed with. I stayed at his house in Syria. He moved his family out of his house to Turkey just so we'd be comfortable during our stay. And every single day, he would ride me to the hospital on the back of his motorbike. That's me sitting on the back of his bike. Nihad died in a bomb just a couple days after we left Syria. I had a translator. His name was Safwan. He's in the white on the right. He too was killed a couple months after we left. And I'm starting to reach the reality that if I want to use social media for social good, if I want to tell these stories, I can't go to Syria anymore. It's not safe. And the same goes for the majority of mainstream media. We're not seeing CNN and BBC and Al Jazeera in Aleppo today. It's far too dangerous. If we're going to be able to cover this war zone and tell these stories, we're going to have to use the selfie journalists that are already on the ground. The days of Yusuf Omar going out and saying, coming to you live from Syria or Congo are over. We now need to look at how can we curate the millions and millions of people, the millions of selfie journalists that are already doing this, and how can we look to fact check and make sure their stories are authentic. This is 7-year-old Bana. Bana has been live streaming on Periscope for the last couple months from Aleppo with the help of her mother, giving us the intimate details of what's happening on the ground at a time when there's almost no coverage. They're charging their phones using solar panels on the rooftop of their apartment block. It is totally opinionated. It's totally full of take down Assad, bring in the forces. It's not objective. It's not journalism in a traditional sense. But that doesn't mean that it's not of value. It's absolutely of value once we take it within the context of it being somebody narrating their story. And it's a compelling story, a voice that we need to start listening to.
I want to leave. Now it's okay. No bombing.
Now, I totally get it. The traditional media are now weaponizing the term fake news to discredit Traditional media are now weaponizing fake news as a term. Donald Trump is weaponizing the term fake news to discredit selfie journalists like Bana. They say, no, this isn't real. And I totally understand the potential for fake news. And I totally understand how selfie journalism can be used not for social good, but actually to spread false stories. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, on my personal Facebook account, on my personal Snapchat, I took the front cover of Time magazine. Do you remember the front cover where Donald Trump had won? And he was sort of sitting like this on a little chair. And I took my face and I put it on Donald Trump's face instead. And
So I'm back in Delhi, and look who just won Time Person of the Year.
So like the most appalling job at photoshopping using Snapchat, right? To put my face onto his. And I even wrote hashtag fake news. I was trying to be ironic. You won't believe how many of my friends congratulated me for winning Time Person of the Year. It was crazy. So that told me two things. It told me firstly that my friends are very gullible and I perhaps need to evaluate my Facebook friends list. And secondly, fake news is real. It's a thing and it's a really big problem. So how do we authenticate the voices of selfie journalists around the world and know that what they are telling is the truth? For me, the only way to do it is using technology. When we look at young Bana and her story from Aleppo, we can accurately see images within her periscope which show us rubble around her house, which show us where a car is seated. We can use Google Images, Google Satellite, to verify that Bana is live streaming from where she says she is on a regular basis, that she is a 7-year-old from inside Aleppo. We can do all of these things. We can quite easily use technology to verify stories. And this is even easier with Snapchat, because Snapchat has geo-filters, it has timestamps, it has all of these steps that help us authenticate. When somebody tweets a video of a rocket taking off in Syria, how do I know that that rocket's taking off today? I don't really. It can be from any time. So we can use technology to help verify some of this imagery. And young Bana's story, the young selfie journalist, was listened to, because somewhere amongst the United Nations ceasefire negotiations and a call by Donald Trump for Putin to stop the flights over Syria, Bana made it out of Syria. She made it out of Aleppo in the last few weeks and actually made it to President Erdogan in Turkey. Somebody listened to that young selfie journalist. I ask you, how many selfie journalists are we listening to here in Norway? You said that there was, what, 3.3 million Facebook users? If even 1% of those were regarded as selfie journalists, if we could curate just 1% of all of the people that are on Facebook here in Norway, we'd have, what, 30,000 people that have become journalists. Imagine the ability to get to all these other stories on the fringes of society that we're not telling. Stories of sexual abuse, stories of migration. All of the people that are not being represented by mainstream media could suddenly have a voice if we started curating the voices of selfie journalism. This is Snapchat. It's used for very childish and frivolous purposes, for people to wear face masks and do these sorts of things. I was interested when I got to India as to how we could use an app like Snapchat to empower more and more people to tell their stories. It's too big a country, 1.3, 1.4 billion people, for us to run around with our phones being selfie journalists. It's about listening on the ground and empowering other people to tell their own story. And one of those stories was sexual abuse. I was hiking a mountain in Mysore with a group called the Climb Against Sexual Abuse. I'd met 50 young girls who had been raped, sexually abused. In the mainstream media in India, you're not allowed to show their faces because they get thrown out of society. They get left from their communities. Their own parents disown them because they've been raped. So how could we tell this story differently? Mainstream broadcasters would do what? They would blur out somebody's face, or they would use silhouettes, or they would show their hands. They would find any way to film you without showing your identity. But for me, that just becomes a soundbite. You have no real detail, no real emotion if you can't see a person's face when they're describing their story. So I thought, what if we could use Snapchat to do justice to these young women's stories? And this is what we did.
Okay.
I was 5 years old when it happened.
And these young women had the opportunity to hold my phone out like a mirror, to look at it, to choose their own filters. It actually started with me. I first held it to myself, and I was like, I put a clown's face on, we laughed, I put a little tiara on, they giggled. And then I gave the phone to them and I said, you choose how you will be represented. It wasn't like I'm the journalist and I'm like, see you later, I'll do this at the office, I'll hide your face, don't worry about it. They got to see with their own eyes their faces being hidden. They were empowered to decide how they would be identified. They were totally in control of their own narrative. They trusted me as a filmmaker that they would be hidden. And as an audience, we still got to see eyes, mouth, nose, these sorts of details that help us relate to somebody, help us feel sort of like we understand them, even if we don't. It gave us a sense of purpose. Since this story, this method of using Snapchat face filters has been used in Germany to help sexual abuse survivors. It's been used in Abu Dhabi to help women who have been sexually trafficked from India, who have been brought there on the pretense of work, and then once they arrived in the UAE, they've been used as sex slaves for months and months. It's giving people who didn't have a voice an opportunity to speak out. And they don't need me. They can be there on their own with their phones, and they can tell their own story. It's about empowering people to tell their own stories. Then we thought, how can we continue? If we are looking at Snapchat and we look beyond the gimmicks, because what was Snapchat originally designed for? It was little ephemeral messages that last 24 hours, and for the most part, it was young people, not much younger than myself, that were sharing nudies, naked pictures of themselves. But how can we look beyond the gimmicks and find the storytelling technology and use that to tell people's stories? We were covering education, and education is something that we cover absolutely every single year. And to be honest, it's boring. In India, you need 99.9% pass rates in school to get into university, and it's still very, very difficult. And conventionally, we would interview the chancellor of the university, we would get shots outside, we might do a couple of voxies, but we thought, let's try and do this differently. So we brought 6 young students in, and we trained them how to Snapchat. And that didn't take long, because young people pick it up so quickly that they end up teaching us how to Snapchat. And we had them Snapchat the most stressful 6 weeks of their lives trying to get into university. And every week we'd give them a topic. This week we're going to talk about sex. This week we're going to talk about finding a residence. This week we're going to talk about your books. And we ended up getting all of these little micro stories around education that we never had access to before.
6 people,
6 goals,
6 ideas,
6 dreams,
but one objective.
to make their summer the best days of their life.
This is the first ever Snapchat reality. The idea of crowdsourcing user-generated content is not a particularly new phenomenon. You can go onto Twitter and you can find stuff from any part of the world and you can crowdsource it and create content. The difference here is Snapchat has no sense of discovery. If you guys were Snapchatting this right now, nobody in the rest of Norway or around the world would be able to search and find out that you were doing that. So when you bring a group of students in and you get them to Snapchat around one particular topic, you end up with a very unique and singular source that nobody else has access to. And it's absolutely free content. Those students are still sending me snaps. I don't know what to do with them anymore. And you effectively create a reality show, and you get to the stories, you get access to the parts of the world and places that you never had access to before. At the end, this is what this is all about. When I'm talking about the curation of snaps and the curation of selfie journalists, I'm talking about more angles, more perspectives, and more truths, which for me means a better form of journalism. Just see selfies as another source. We've always had sources, and this is just one more source. We were trying to tell the story of drugs in Punjab. We had a crazy statistic that 70% of the youth are using drugs. So we were like, firstly, let's find out how easy it is to actually buy drugs. So we went out and we tried to snap trying to buy drugs. This did 2 things. Firstly, every time you send a snap and you press the send button, it goes up to the cloud automatically. So it's safe. The same reason that people live stream from the Black Lives Matter protests in America to the Arab Spring is often because they fear authorities will take away their phones, that they will destroy their footage. So we're able to shoot it up to the cloud all of the time. The other reason we used it is because we knew young people were on this platform and we wanted to target them with content about drugs. And every time we put up a snap, it was a suspense-driven narrative. They would watch that snap and they'd be like, ooh, what's going to happen next? Are they going to get the drugs? Are they going to get arrested? What's going to happen? So they kept coming back and back, and we ended up creating quite serious news using a very frivolous technology.
pretty scary right now. I've come to Punjab to do a fluff piece on a new film, but the big talking point in this stage is drugs. I'm gonna go undercover. This looks way too formal. Okay, that's probably a better balance. So we're leaving the hotel now. The time is 11:40. Alright, we've got our first ride. Alright, so things seem to be working out. The auto driver says he knows the place. He's taking us there right now. It's pretty scary right now. We are in a little back street.
You guys get the idea. Essentially today, let me take you here first. Of all of the videos I've ever produced using social media for social good, trying to get awareness to socially important issues, the video called The Ugly Indian was the most successful. It got 4 million views in the first 4 days on Facebook. It went viral, for whatever that means. And effectively, what we're learning is, apart from using social media because we think it's the right thing to do, to use it for social good, Facebook timelines, people want to share good news stories. We're finding all of our data is proving it. On traditional media, on your newspapers, the old maxim was, if it bleeds, it leads. Since Vietnam, when they went to the war zones and they put bloody front pages of newspapers, they sold better than good news. Social media is the opposite. Social media wants stories of hope, of aspiration, constructive journalism, solutions to problems in society. People want to share good news. They're too depressed. They've seen too much Donald Trump and terrorism on their timelines. They want to share stories of hope. I was in the town of Bangalore, and I saw a group of people cleaning the streets. That's all they were doing. Group of everyday people just cleaning up. And I said, what are you guys doing? And they said, no, we believe that India is dirty and it's our fault. We are the problem. Let's not blame government. Let's not blame organizations. Let's not blame service delivery. We're going to take responsibility because we're ugly Indians. We pollute our area. We're all ugly Indians. You, me. And I said, cool. Is it a website, an NGO? Where can I sign up? And they said, no, it's nothing. It's just an idea. There's no organization. There's no phone book directory to this organization. You can't donate funds. If you want to become ugly Indians in Norway, you can do that. And I thought, this is so cool. But in a conventional sense, it wasn't really a story. It was just a group of people cleaning the streets. Nonetheless, I shot it with my cell phone, got out, got a couple shots of people cleaning up, and I put it online. And as I said, 4 million views in 4 days.
That guy is urinating on the wall.
Are you an ugly Indian?
All of us here are the ugly Indians.
This place smells like urine. A lot of urine. This is our problem.
The Ugly Indian is a Facebook group that focuses on spot fixing, spotting an ugly part of their towns or their cities and fixing it.
It's meditation.
It's about the broken window theory, that if an area is ugly,
Ugliness attracts ugliness.
but if you can make it beautiful, people will look after it.
Make the space look like somebody is taking care of.
The tragedy of the commons that we protect. Cool. I'm going to be doing a workshop tomorrow. Tomorrow, what time was it? At 9. We're going to be looking at, there's no ingredients to viral video, but we're going to be looking at some of the things that may have made these kinds of videos go viral, how you structure a piece to make it travel further on the internet. But it really starts with the understanding that when we do our journalism, like that piece, 50% of the conversation is about the who, the where, the what, the when, the why, the how, the basic tenets of journalism. And the other 50% is about how do we share it? What conversations do we start? What's happening in that comments section? When people do share it, what are they writing? That's my social media handle. Follow me. Today, what are we doing today? Today, I've got 16 students who I've been working with yesterday. And we all are Snapchatting, like I'm going to do right now. Hey, what's up, guys? Say hello, everybody. Very, very lively audience. Hey, what's up, guys? Say hello. So basically, the entire day, I am looking at my comments, my stories that are happening. And Jennifer, where's Jennifer? Are you in the room? Jennifer? Hey, Jennifer, can we check out your story? So Jennifer's snapping throughout the day.
Hey guys, we're here at the Vismedia conference in Bergen. We have a great lineup, including Snapchat wizard Yusuf Omar.
Cool, so Jennifer's snapping. We've got 16 people snapping. Imagine, we've got 16 cameras right now, all the time, and it didn't cost us a cent. It's things that were already in their pocket. They're producing content.
You want to tell
Cool. And if I want to give them some feedback, if I wasn't too happy with some of those posts, where's Victoria? Victoria in the room? Cool. Hey, Victoria, I'm really enjoying your videos, but do you mind just getting a wide shot of the rain? Because I wanted to try and capture that for the audience. Do you mind? Thank you so much. I can give them real-time feedback. So it's not like they come back at the end of the day and they're like, what did you produce? And I say, oh, you could have done this better. Throughout the day, I'm communicating with them. By, 3-4 hours time? In about 3 hours time, we're going to curate the stories of 16 young people who are in this room and try and produce one narrative. Peter's got the Facebook Live. We'll try and do a 360 video. And I'm happy to discuss all of that with you and give you some advice about how to do it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Any questions? I think I've got a couple minutes, am I right? I'm going to put my selfie there. Thanks, guys. I can take any questions if anybody has any. I know I've spoken a lot and very quickly. Cool.
Are you streaming the workshop tomorrow?
Yeah, why not? Is that okay? Can we stream it? I'm sure. If not, you can have 16 Snapchatters Snapchatting it. Or I think there's 30 people in the room. But if there's any event that I'm at, you can guarantee there's a lot of self-promotion happening. So yes, I'm sure it will be all over the place. How slow is this? Let's see. About 10, I don't know. We'll see. Hey, questions? Oh, right up the back. Oh, hello.
Hey. What peripheral tech are you using for doing your live reports? Like, if you're out in the field, you're doing your video, are you using like a wireless mic or something like that?
Yeah, so I'm wearing one right now. I'm wearing the mics range from $1,000 to about $100. This is the Samsung, it's $100. For me, there's a lot of peripheral kit you can buy. You can buy entire rigs that you put around your phone with the light on the top, with the sort of cold shoes to put your mic onto. Tripods. I'm in the mobile journalism community known as being the antichrist. I avoid all of it. I've never ever used a tripod for the last 7 years. I believe that I want to be as mobile as possible. If I'm going to go big, I'll go really big. I'll get the DSLR with all of those gadgets and peripheries. The two most essential pieces of gear, or in fact the one most essential piece of gear is the wireless mic. And if you look at the bottom of he's got the receiver coming out of my lightning port. That's pretty much it. I don't care. If it's that dark, I'll shoot with a DSLR. There's loads of stuff you can buy, but you don't need to. In our newsroom, we've got 750 journalists. We have 75 different types of phones, ranging from a $4 phone to a $700, $800 phone. All of them have got just basic lapel mics. And if they don't have that, they're just using headphones with the little mic on the bottom. It's all about access and trying to keep it as cheap as possible. When we start adding too much of professional stuff to the kit, it becomes out of reach of the majority of people, and that's the complete opposite of what we're trying to do.
Cool, thanks.
Cool. Hello. You guys are more than welcome to share this, so we can grow that number from 28 to 280.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So inspiring.
I appreciate
really.
it. Thank you.
Can I ask, I didn't do my homework. How old are you?
I'm 27 years old.
Okay.
I'll just give you a little, I was born in the UK, in London. I moved to Australia when I was 14 and South Africa when I was 21. I was a foreign correspondent for 5 years, and then I've moved to India. And I'm preparing to move to Europe in a couple of weeks, but I'm not allowed to say where yet.
Okay. My question, the ethical side.
Yes.
So when you're snapping, chatting, where's your limit to... I'm asking, my name is Carrie, and I'm a former journalist, not working. I'm working with human rights issues right now. So I'm curious to know where your limits are.
It's a fantastic question, and bear with me for a second. The thing is, Snapchat's actually quite a good platform for limits, because every time you snap, you've got a couple seconds to make a decision about whether you put it up or not, right? Whether you submit that story. The actual ethical dilemma for me is on Facebook Lives. Because every time I hit that send button, it's up. Once I'm live all the time. I was recently, I'm just trying to find it for you. This is Snapchat memories. The idea that Snapchat lasts for 24 hours is not true. I store everything forever. And I'm going to find you, yeah. So I was once in South Africa, and I was covering xenophobia. You guys know xenophobia, right? Where foreigners are targeted, often because of surface delivery issues or whatever it may be. And in this instance, a young man had a tire put around him, a car tire, and he was set on fire and killed. So I went into the hostels, to the place where it was suspected that the people that had committed this crime were living. And I was with the police and I was with the army raiding this place. And conventionally, with the television broadcast setup, I would have been outside with an OB van or a SNG or a BGAN satellite, and I would have been doing my crossing. But because of Facebook Live, I had access to go inside the building live and capture the raid as it was happening, which I thought was really good content.
It's taking place in hostels throughout Jeffrey's Town. If you just have a look over here, this officer found in this cupboard, he found a machete. This is a sizable weapon which could potentially have been used.
So there was two things wrong with that live crossing. I mean, obviously it was compelling content. You saw a machete and you were live with the army. The two things that were wrong. Firstly, I was wearing my bulletproof vest the wrong way around. So I looked like an idiot in front of the whole social media community. But the bigger issue was that I was revealing people's faces and the army were treating them like suspects before they'd even served their day in court. In fact, these were young men that had just been ripped out of bed and were suddenly being strip searched and all this kind of stuff, and I was walking around showing it like totally naive. And it's because we've got access to things and we can now show things that we would have never taken live before. We would have had a gatekeeper and we would have had an editorial process to decide what we would and wouldn't take live. So all I can say is you move with technology. We're getting faster and faster. As we approach 2020, we'll have 5G internet, and I believe all of us, my generation, will take everything live all the time, and ethical dilemmas will be more than ever before. And I think we adapt and we change our journalistic storytelling. So now when I do a Facebook Live, I shoot the floor first. If I'm going into a hostel, I'm narrating what I'm seeing. I'm saying, we're going in, there's men being ripped out of bed, they're being searched. Only when I can verify with my eyes and it's safe to show, I lift the camera and I show. So it's literally like muscle memory, about training yourself not to do what you instinctively want to do, which is show first. I talk and then I show. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
My question is about how you inform the participants of your videos. I'm a journalist with TV2 in Norway. My name is Siren Henshin. And when you do your filming, when you are live reporting, you will present who you are and who you are sharing the information with. Does all the participants, all the people you film, do they get what you're doing?
It depends on the country, it depends on the culture, it depends on the level of education of the people. I have, in my experience, my very little experience, I find when I go to North America, people get it and they're all for it. All Americans want to be on TV. They're like, yeah, I'll tell you my story. When I travel in Germany and parts of Europe, there's a lot more privacy. And people are a lot more respectful of public spaces being private. In India, it's the most complicated, because you're often interviewing somebody who doesn't have Facebook, who doesn't have a clue what Facebook Live is, but they do know what the Hindustan Times is. That process of bringing people into the sphere of what you're doing is actually an interesting realm of this new form of journalism. It happens all the time. It's a great question, and it's about talking to them about it, and again, showing the floor while you're having that discussion. Most of our most prolific Facebook Lives that we're doing at the moment are not in the studio. All of the best views, the ones that we've got, are out in the field, single camera, no straps. The audience are telling us where to go. And I'm often walking around, I'm saying, oh, like we had demonetization recently, where the rupee was made extinct, a lot of the notes. And I would walk around a busy market, and I'd be like, hey, sir, and I'll just point the camera away from him. We're from the Hindustan Times. We're doing a Facebook Live. Do you mind if I just chat to you? And they say, sure. And we go with that. And the audience love it, because then it's suspense-ridden. If you, as the content creator, don't know where the story is going to go, if you don't know the A and the B pathway, it makes it even more prolific. And I think that's what mobile journalism has an edge over television for. Television's still a lot more structured. You know which guest is going to come. You deliver your link, you turn, you interview them, you come back. This is a lot more dynamic, and that conversation of telling them who you are and where you're from is part of the storytelling process. And it's difficult. I don't speak any. I only speak English. So in India, doing it in Hindi is impossible. Anyone else?
Hi, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I have a question about how you edit it. Are you the only one deciding what is being published since you use Snapchat, or are you a team of editors?
Okay, great question. Firstly, I'd like to say that over the last 3 months, we have moved rapidly away from editing packages. We take everything live all the time because we believe that audiences want a raw, intimate experience where they can ask questions and where they can help determine where the story is going to go. We also do it because Facebook are prioritizing live feeds above everything else on timelines. When I go live, you get a push notification to say Yusuf Omar is live right now. So that's taken some of that process away. In terms of the curation of snaps and editing, we let the reporters snap on their personal profiles. They snap on their own profiles. They send it to us over WhatsApp or over Facebook Messenger. We then cut it up, still on the phone, and we export it out to social platforms. So we have a curation hub at the office. So it's like, for me, the future of news, and Snapchat are already doing this. I don't know if you saw their coverage of the US elections. Did you see it? They are basically watching over millions and millions of people's cameras, and in real time, they are curating. And we're trying to do exactly the same thing. I'll give you an example. So if we have a look, this is how, I'll do Mecca, this is probably better. Snapchat, we're covering Hajj, and it's the holy pilgrimage of Muslims.
From Mecca, Ramadan Kareem for everybody, and this is our dress. We want to perform Al-Umrah, and I hope from God to accept all the good things from all of us.
6th of Ramadan, people from all around the world in
So Snapchat are jumping between all of their Snap stories and telling stories, and we're trying to do exactly the same. We're watching our reporters, and in real time, we're playing God. We're looking at a million cameras, and we're saying, take this, and this, and this. It's the most exciting thing, and it goes back to my point I keep emphasizing, that curation of all of these images is the new form of creation. And we do it on the device. We found that videos that are shot and edited and produced on a mobile phone are performing better, almost 3 times more views than the videos that are produced on the broadcast cameras, even in terms of editing them on the phone. And we think that's because when you're editing on a phone, you're thinking about how a mobile audience wants to digest it. You're thinking, oh, these subtitles are too small, let me make them bigger. This thing's too long, let me make it shorter. My arm's getting tired. All of these decisions are being motivated by the mobile phone. So I would encourage, if you are editing the curation of snaps, you do it on the phone, not on the desktop. It's also cheaper. There was a question up the front, I think. This gentleman. Did your battery die? Number 1 rule, keep battery packs.
Thank you for a great talk.
Thank you.
In my opinion, you have talked very much of producing the stuff and sending it out.
Yeah.
As you see, I'm an old man. And my main information of news comes through, I look every day on television or listen to the radio.
Yeah.
I didn't know about you. I will never get your information as long as I don't know you. So I wonder, with all this, and if you're going to get 30,000 Norwegians just to do what you're talking about,
yeah.
I mean, there will be so much information out there. And how should people actually select from all this massive amount? We are drowning in information.
Exactly. I agree with you completely. There's an explosion of content on our timelines. The value add and the reason that journalists and media organizations are more important now than ever before is to take on that role of separating the voices, the important voices that we need to listen to, from this bulk of noise. I think when journalists can reorientate their skill set and their mindset that this is my new role, that I need to be able to sift through this massive content and come up with stories, and better stories, because, I mean, the law of large numbers states the more sample size we have, the larger the amount of people contributing, the more accurate our findings will become. Then we produce better journalism. So I think that's the process. And we're seeing that play out if you look at the US elections. The New York Times saw a growth in the amount of subscribers after the US elections. because people were hungry for real, authentic, verified information because of this massive nonsense that was coming out online. So I think the journalist role now is more important than ever before.
Hello, my name is Lars Nyre at the University of Bergen.
Yes, sir.
And I'm wondering a little bit about your role as a journalist here. Because I wanted to become a journalist, but I was too shy. I was afraid of the microphone. You're not afraid of the microphone, and there is not the camera either. So there is something about this role that is required, which is sort of very extrovert. Maybe you have to enjoy it, but certainly you have to act in this way, that you are exposing yourself and your emotions all the time. So your response, but just like a question, how long will you manage to do this before you're so tired of exposing yourself in this way that you have to become a manager or a leader? I mean, how long will you be able to do this?
It's already happening. Firstly, I don't think you're shy because you've obviously got the mic. It's already happening. Most of the content that I showed you today was stuff that I produced a year ago. For the last year, I've spent curating other people, both within the organization and India as a whole. I think in my personal capacity, I'm flirting with this line between journalism and influencer, where I have my own following of people, and they are watching me, and they trust me as a news source more than they perhaps trust brands. Today, people are more interested in who's sharing the story as opposed to which organization is producing it. So they might not trust the Hindustan Times, but they trust me because I'm their friend, or they know me because they watch my snaps every day. But don't get confused by the sort of charisma of like, oh, Yusuf's doing all these stuff. That's the initial, that was my selfie journalism 5 years ago. That was Yusuf on camera. The selfie journalism of today and tomorrow is not Yusuf on camera. It's curating the voices of other people. So I won't get tired because it wouldn't be me doing it. I'll be like, immediately after this, my job is going to be to stitch together all of these 16 journalists into one cognizant narrative in under a minute, hopefully.
My name is John Marcus, and I'm editor-in-chief of Dagbladet, so I'm sure we're going to talk more together later today. Thank you for a very inspiring speech. Can you, I don't know anything about your media organization, but
yes,
you haven't said anything about the business model. How is mobile as an operation doing in business-wise?
Fantastic question, and it's something that every news organization in the world is hurdling. How do we monetize the digital space? We're not seeing the same revenue that we see in traditional media as we are online. India is in a funny position where print is still growing, where the amount of people buying the newspaper is on the increase. More people are becoming literate, more people are becoming affluent. In terms of mobile, and specifically video, because video makes up 50% of the internet in India, and it's going to be 75% by 2020. There's a few things you can do. YouTube have tried pre-roll ads. You know, you watch the 3 seconds at the start, and people can't wait to skip. That hasn't seemed to work. People have also tried banner ads on the top of digital mobile content. People are banner blind, ad blind. They have ad blocks. That's not working. Another option that we're flirting with is content marketing, something that a lot of news organizations shy away of. The idea of doing a piece about snow on the roads of Norway and say this is brought to you by Toyota tires or whatever it may be. That seems to be a viable option. But increasingly, I'm seeing it a little bit differently. I think Hindustan Times' core business is print, storytelling, written copy, written text. We understand that video has enormous reach, far, far greater reach on social media than our website does. If we can use video and all of its reach and get 5 million people to watch The Ugly Indian and hit in the comments section a link to the print story, to the written story, and migrate that audience, and then we monetize around the digital copy, which we've already been doing for a long time, the print, the written stuff. So that's how I see it, if that makes any sense. I say, get your audience with this video and then channel them through to what you are good at. When you don't do that, things go horribly wrong. When the New York Times tried to do funny cat videos because they wanted to compete with BuzzFeed, it didn't work because their core audience were not used to that and they didn't expect that of the New York Times, and they couldn't monetize it and it wasn't successful. Use that big reach to channel them through to what you are good at.
Hi, I'm Paul Adams from University of Texas.
Hello.
And we've talked a lot about what you can see in your videos, but I was very impressed by the sound. You had dubbed in music that seemed very appropriate. And I'm curious if you can tell us anything about how you both identify the music that you're going to use and then clear that for reuse in terms of rights.
Yeah, for sure. A few things about sound. 80% of the Hindustan Times audience are not listening to anything during our videos. 80%. 90% of the people that were watching that Facebook Live are not using the audio. The vast majority. So we're actually editing our videos with the audio off primarily. We're making sure that you can digest the content without listening to it. In terms of picking audio that is rights-free, there's an entire host of them. Most of the apps that I use that are free have built-in free, rights-free audio libraries. And I'll give you, you guys can, I'll put this up on my Twitter so you can grab them or you can take a picture of the screen. These are some of my Mojo apps that I use on a daily basis. Quick, for example, has an archive of tons and tons of free music. Splice has got free music. Pocket Video has got free music. As much as possible, I try and stay off the grid. I try and stay off having to buy an archive. In fact, a greater question or a greater part of our discussion is that everything we do is off the grid. We don't use, the video team, the Mojo video team don't even use a CMS system. We go directly up to social, directly up to YouTube. YouTube's a great example. If you load your video up to YouTube without music, before you hit the upload button, YouTube have got thousands and thousands of free music that you can plug into your piece. I'm all about the free. Everything we do is free. We've never bought a single phone. We've never bought a single piece of software. It's all free. Fantastic.
One round of applause again.
Thank you so much.